I bombed a job interview at 3 a.m. in the morning because I sounded too cheerful on the call. And after that interview was done and I got that rejection email, it taught me a lot about applying for jobs and how we don't need to be doing so much for these companies. So, this is that story. Dun dun. Okay. So, I mentioned a lot that I was in the job market like a couple years ago, right? It was like a year and a half ago now. And the long and short of it is that I put in 10 job applications, very strategic job applications, and I ended up getting 4 interviews, but for the other companies, I got interviews for them, and, or at least most of them I got interviews for, but the reasons why I didn't get those jobs was varied. And for this particular story, I have to tell you, I was so excited. So gosh doggone excited about this job because one, as I mentioned in the intro, it's fully distributed, which is really big for me. Like literally you can work from anywhere. The sales manager that I ended up talking to was in Europe, which is why the interview was at 3 a.m. You know what? Let me back up a little bit. Let me back up because I'm sure y'all are confused. So I was perusing LinkedIn when one of the account executives at this company posted, "Hey, we're hiring for a new SDR at our company." And I had already been following him for a while and like he raved about the company and like his promotion and all the things. So I was already kind of interested. But it's one of those companies where literally there are never any openings because no one ever leaves, which by the way, really good sign. If they rarely have openings, it could be one of two things, right? It could be either they don't have any openings because the company isn't growing, or it could be they never have certain openings because people like the company so much and nobody ever leaves, right? So I was assuming that it was the latter because people, like literally everyone at that company, talked really highly about it, at least everyone that posted on LinkedIn. So he posted that, like, hey, we're hiring for an SDR, send us, your resumes or apply online. And at this point I had already pretty much dialed in my like job search strategy, so I was like, okay, I found literally all of the sales managers, every single one of them, and I sent them an email that was like, hey, I want to be an SDR at your company, this is why you should hire me, blah 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 blah, right? A little more to it than that, but that's the like gist of it. And I also sent a very similar message to like the talent team. So if you ever see like recruiter at blank, talent at talent acquisition, all that stuff. Same difference. So I sent all of them a message and most of them didn't reply. It was like the one talent recruiter lady messaged me, and I wish maybe one day I'll like show the email, but she sent me an email and she was like, "Oh my gosh, like we thought we already had someone, um we had a couple people already like further along in the process, but like we want you at our company." Which by the way, I feel like that should tell you a lot about my job search strategy. Just saying. Just saying. Just saying. Anyway. So they were like, "Yeah, we really want to get you in the process. So we're gonna have you meet with someone. Here's our calendar link and schedule a time." So I don't know why um they sent me the calendar link for the manager that was in like Poland or Czechia it was somewhere like far in Europe, right? And at the time, I was living in California. So it wasn't even like it was like a 6, 7, 8 hour difference. It was like a almost a 12-hour 12-hour time difference with the sales manager. So all the times that they had were at like 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m. And I was like, crap. Okay. So I chose a day that was like 3 days out and it was at like 3 a.m. And mind you, I I didn't have I think at this point I had done some sales training, but it wasn't like I didn't have any like real cold call experience. And I also don't think at this point I was working with my mentor as closely. So like I told him I had the interview, but it's not like we prepped for it it's not like we prepped for it like we did some of my other interviews. So I hop on the call with this lady. Mind you, I'm going into this thinking like, oh, I got this. I'm feeling confident. I had like pumped myself up before the interview because I had to. Like I took a little bit of a nap from like 11 to 2 and then like 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. And then woke up and was like trying to pump myself up. So I'm trying not to look tired, trying not to make sure she doesn't see that my eyes are bloodshot and like puffy and all that stuff. And I hop on the call and I am trying again to like keep somewhat of a normal energy level. Excuse me. Keep like somewhat of a normal energy level. And maybe it was a little bit too much. I don't know. But go through the whole thing. She's like asking me about myself. This lady does not smile once. Like she does not crack a smile. Mind you, I'm like, trying to be bubbly and witty and like making normal sales jokes that I would in any of my interviews that had gotten good responses before. She's not having it. She is not having it. And I'm also like feeling a little bit of anxiety because again, I'm excited about this company. It's one of those companies that like something that is really big for me is being able to travel while I work. At least now that I'm in this new industry, right? So I was like, "Oh, okay, the team is distributed, which means they won't care if I'm working from Europe. They won't care if I'm working from London. They won't care if I'm working from Mexico. This is going to be amazing. Oh my gosh, this is wonderful." And then you look at the benefits and it's like fully paid medical, dental, vision, company offsites. I think they had just had a company offsite in like Puerto Rico or Mexico or it was somewhere anyway. Um and the guy that I was following who showed that who like posted the job, he had just talked about like, yeah, I just got a raise, and this company is one thing I really like about being at this company is that they hire from within, and da da da. And I was like, all I got to do is get my foot in this thing. And then they had a really nice like PTO policy. I think they had like 5 or 6 weeks of PTO, which is like unheard of here in the States. So I was like, okay, all I got to do is get in this thing and then I'm in there. Greg from Everybody Hates Chris, bro, you are so in there. That's that's how I felt, okay? And so there was a little bit of anxiety because I'm like, okay, all I have to do is just get in here. Maybe I had overdone it a little bit, like pumping myself up. But we do the mock call and I'm like, okay, heart's beating out of my chest, but I'm like, I got this. I had kind of practiced. I had seen some watched some YouTube videos and gotten some tips and that sort of thing. So she's like, okay, let's do the mock call. And so we do the ring everything. I'm like, hi, da, 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 da. I just run through my whole thing and ask her a couple questions. And she ends the call after like 40 seconds, like doesn't even attempt to like roll with it, which is kind of how mock cold calls go. Like generally they want to see how you're handling objections and how you sound, and you're kind of rolling with the punches, maybe how much you can pitch a little bit of their product and that sort of thing. If you can like break down somebody's initial defenses on a cold call, that whole thing. And we end the call. She's like, okay, we're done. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, you're really enthusiastic. And I'm like, yeah, well, I don't I don't want to sound like I'm angry at the prospect, you know? Um, and she's like, yeah, it's kind of a lot of energy. Again, mind you, it's like 3 p.m. her time. It's 3 a.m. my time. She has not cracked a smile. I've been smiling this whole time. And so I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, what what do you say to that? When she's like, yeah, it's kind of a lot of energy. And I'm like, aren't you a salesperson? Most salespeople, don't get me wrong, they're absolutely introverts in sales. There are people who aren't people that are in sales and can still be good at it if you know what you're doing. But usually salespeople are like, they tend to be a little more friendly. A little, I wasn't even expecting like her to be super extroverted, but like, can you crack a smile? Anything? Like it, like, yes, you're interviewing me, but I also should be getting a positive view of your company, and there was just nothing. Okay. So mind you, I'm dying inside. I can't remember if I had to go to work that same day too, but either way, I was like pissed, but like trying to be positive about it, and anyway, we got off the call, and before we get off the call, something I always ask at the end of my interviews is like, hey, we've spent the last 30 minutes together. Are there any concerns that you have that maybe I can address? And usually a manager will be like, oh, maybe you don't have as much sales experience as some of the other people that we interviewed, so that's one thing. Or I worry that, maybe because you have 10 kids and a donkey, you won't have time to, get your calls done. There'll be too much noise in the background. I don't know. There's usually something, okay, that they'll mention. And if not, they will say no and then also give an explanation. So, actually, no, I've really enjoyed this time together. I think we're looking for someone who's very ambitious, and it seems like that's what you are. We're looking for someone that wants to grow with the company, and you've already told us that that's something that you're really interested in because you're invested in our mission. I go, you know what I mean? Like, usually there's something. And I asked her this question, and she's just like, no, I think we're good. Okay. So then it also puts me in a tough spot because I'm like, there's not even, like, basically all I can say is just like, okay, thanks, bye, you know? So get off that, cool. And I get an email the next day from the recruiter that had initially messaged me and was like, oh my gosh, we're super excited to get you in the process. And she was like, yeah, so I don't remember what her name was. Sarah, Caitlin, Anna, Irina, I don't remember. Um, And she was like, "Yeah, she decided not to move you forward, so unfortunately, this is the end of the interview process." And I was like, "Yeah, okay." Um, and what that taught me is that, one, I'm actually pretty happy that I didn't go with that company. Maybe, at another time it would be a better fit, but the company that I joined ended up being so much better. I think. And also, you're interviewing a company at the same time that they're interviewing you. And you also should advocate for yourself during the interview process. Like, I could have very easily messaged the recruiter and been like, hey, so this particular manager has no time at like a reasonable time of day for me. Can I interview with someone else? And I think, like, for me at the time, I was so desperate for a new job. I just wanted to go somewhere else. And especially when you find a company that seems like it fits all of your needs, it can be really easy to just acquiesce to whatever, to just like, okay, if I have to do this at 3 a.m., then that's what I'm going to have to do. I'm realizing that my people pleasing behavior is kind of went over into the interview process on that one. Because I really should have been like, yo, I should have flagged that. And I'm sure at some point when I have to look for a job again, it'll be very different. But at the time, I was like, look, I need a job. I need a job. You guys have a job that allows me to travel and do what I love, and I can. But don't do that. The lesson for today, just because you are desperate for a job does not mean that you need to keep these people pleasing behaviors going during your job search. Don't do that. You don't need to, especially if you're doing the job search right. Like, again, going back to the beginning, I put in 10 applications once I got my job search strategy right. There were like 1,000, probably closer to like 800 before that. But once I got my search strategy right, 10 targeted job applications, almost all of theirs all of theirs. Where am I from? Louisiana? Woo! Okay. Almost all of those 10 applications turned into interviews, and of those interviews, I got 4 offers. So if you're doing things right, just saying, you shouldn't have to do all that. You should be able to make a decision even in a difficult job market. Yeah. So that's the message for today. Thank you for joining me. If you don't know, my name is Alexis. I post here on YouTube every single day. And I actually didn't check what day today was. I think today might be 29, which is crazy. My goal is at least 100 days of daily posting. I talk about breaking into tech sales, career pivot stuff, navigating big life decisions, travel, all the fun stuff. We have fun around here. Everyone's welcome as long as you treat this house like it's yours. So, as long as you're respectful, we have fun. We have a good time. Feel free to hit subscribe and hop on this train early. We're only little under 30% of the way there. So, anyway, thanks so much, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.